Sorry. So today I'm going to talk about a very important topic. I mean, a very important framework, that is spring. So spring framework. Most of you people might have heard about it, that have tried to go through this framework. So what is the spring framework actually? Yes. So whatever you know, tell me. Yes. Yes. So what is spring framework? Don't worry. So whatever you know, tell. Not even one person. Okay. See, spring framework is a lightweight solution and a potentially one-stop shop for building your enterprise-ready applications. Yeah. So basically, it is used for building enterprise applications. Not only enterprise, yes, you can use it to develop web applications, standalone applications, everything. It is a lightweight framework. Yes. So there are various reasons why we call it as a lightweight framework. First of all, because it simplifies the way we develop applications here, enterprise applications in Java. And also, we don't need any heavyweight softwares like application servers and all. So everything will be shipped with the libraries itself. Whatever we need to run the applications which are built using the Spring framework, yes, you'll get them along with this Spring libraries itself. And Spring is an open source framework. Okay, you will be hearing this term a lot, right? Open source. What does that mean actually? When I say open source, what does that mean? only free of cost. Everyone can access it. And also, you know what here, open source also, most of them, they just think that it is free of cost. The thing is, when I say open source, that means anyone can involve in the development of this framework. Anyone can involve in the development and maintenance of this framework. You can register yourself as a project committer and you can fix the bugs if there are any. You can try to add, you can, propose any changes. You can do that. If you are capable of it, you can also involve in the development of this framework. Anyone is free to involve in the development of this framework, I can say. Okay, development and maintenance of this framework. So they are called as project committers. Yes. Okay. So next, you see, Spring was created to address the complexity of enterprise application development and makes it possible to use Java Beans to achieve the things which were possible only through EJBs. Yes. So initially, you know what, when Java was introduced, and for a long time, I can say, in the Java world, when we talk about developing enterprise applications, so there was only one possible solution. What is it? Using EJBs. Okay. In Java world, earlier, applications were only developed using EJBs. Yes. So, EJBs, you'll find that like your servlets, they need a special environment. You need a container to run this EJBs. We call it as an EJB container, which will be part of your application servers. So in order to run this enterprise beans, EJBs, we say you need an application server, which was very much heavyweight. Application server is considered as heavyweight. So even developing the enterprise beans itself was considered as complicated. Developing enterprise beans itself, the coding part and all, so it was little complicated, I can say. Okay, yes. So this is where people were looking for alternates, I can say. People for people were looking for alternates. If there is any alternate approach which we can follow to develop enterprise applications. So because you developing enterprise applications using EJBs was considered as a little complex, little difficult. So that's the reason why people were looking for alternates. This is where your Spring framework has evolved. Okay, so Spring framework came into the existence because of this reason. So with Spring framework, you'll find that the development of enterprise beans was greatly simplified, I can say. Okay, yes, with Spring framework, development of enterprise beans was greatly simplified. Yes. You know, here, Spring Framework, it employs four key strategies. Yes, you'll find that Spring Framework, it has got some strategies, I can say, which it follows. Always here, everything what we do in Spring Framework, you'll find that you'll be traced back to this features. Okay, the strategies, I can say. You can trace back them to the strategies. Yes. So first of all, you see, it is lightweight, minimally invasive development using poses. Yes, it's lightweight, and you'll find that in Spring Framework, yes, the development is lightweight. How? Because we use poses for that purpose. Because we use poses. Poses means, I know you people are familiar, but yes, of course, it's my responsibility to just talk about it once. What are poses? Poses means they're basically plain old Java object classes. Plain old Java object classes. So poses basically plain old Java objects, we can say. So poses, you'll find that here they won't extend any predefined classes. Okay, you'll find that they won't implement any interfaces as well. I mean predefined in the sense which are related to any frameworks. Okay, predefined classes and interfaces which are specific to any framework. So generally you'll find that here. So it is avoided here. Yes. You'll find that in development of enterprise applications using Spring Framework, we'll be using such poses itself. Okay, plain old Java object line. Next, loose coupling. You see, this is one of the key features which you'll see, loose coupling. So loose coupling through dependency injection in interface orientation. First of all, what do we mean by loose coupling here? Yes, what do you think? Okay, I'll make you people understand this loose coupling and dependency injection also. These are the two buzzwords you'll hear here in Spring Framework. Not only in Spring Framework, so after Spring Framework, in most of the other frameworks also, this term loose coupling is used a lot. I mean, the dependency injection is used a lot actually. Um, that is the advantage of using this dependency injection is loose coupling itself, developing loosely coupled objects or components, I can say. Yes. So, is anyone aware of dependency injection here? Dependency injection. Yes. So, yes, Harish, tell me. What do you know about dependency injection?
We have to suppose if any class required a service from other class, and so we can provide that services from one class to another uh, by dependency injection.
One object supplies the dependent of another object. Huh? Okay.
Yes,
Mm,
yes.
an object. Um,
One class.
let's see. So, dependency injection means, let's see. Here, first of all, this is how I define dependency injection. So, dependency is an object needed for another object to accomplish the task or a goal, I can say. Dependency is an object needed for another object to accomplish a task or a goal. Dependency means yes, just any object which is needed for another object to accomplish a task or a goal. That object you can call it as a dependency. Dependency injection is the process of providing or supplying the dependencies needed for an object. Dependency injection is the process of providing supplying the dependencies which are needed for an object. That is dependency injection. So normally, what happens. So if you consider any traditional applications, for suppose, let's take a simple pattern which you all are familiar. So that is a DO. Say you have a DO, and you know the responsibility of this DO, what it does. let's say this is your database server. And DO, the responsibility of the DO. So it is responsible for interacting with the database server. Yes. Now this DO, in order to interact with the database server, so what exactly it needs? Yes. So what it needs to interact with the database server. So a DO, what it needs to interact with the database server. So you all are familiar, I can say. A DO basically,
Connection.
it needs a connection object. That's right. It needs a connection to interact with the database server. So in traditional applications, okay, what happens is this DO itself will acquire that connection object which is needed, right? The DO will acquire the connection object here, which is needed to interact with the database server. It needs a connection object. So this is the resource required for this DO. I can say that for DO, this connection object is a dependency. So the connection object is a dependency for the DO. You'll find that here the DO itself will acquire this connection object and it will use this connection object to interact with the database server. That is what happens in the traditional applications. But in Spring Framework, you'll find that here an object, it need not acquire the dependencies which it needs on its own. Instead, you know what, here an external source called as container will supply the dependencies, all the dependencies which are needed for a particular object. It supplies the dependencies which are needed for a particular object here. In case of Spring Framework, that is what happens. In the Spring Framework, you got something called a Spring Container. In Spring Framework, you got something called a Spring Container. So Spring Container, it is also called as IOC Container. Spring Container is responsible for managing the life cycle of spring beans. Yeah, even you will hear this term spring beans a lot here. So when I say spring beans, what does that mean? So you should have some clarity on these terms. So we'll be using them very frequently. So when I say spring bean, so what is it? What does it mean? So let me give you the definition for spring bean. So when I say spring bean, note on spring bean. Spring bean is any Java object which is okay, is any Java object which is managed by the Spring container, whose life cycle is managed by the Spring container. Okay, so any Java objects which we use here in Spring framework whose life cycle is managed by the Spring container, you can call them as Spring Beans. So when I say the container manages the life cycle, so what does that means? What it includes in the life cycle management? What do people think? Yeah, you know, right from when I say life cycle management here, you'll find that the container itself is responsible for instantiating this bean classes, the Spring Bean classes, initializing them, placing them into service, and destroying the beans. You'll find that here, these are all the responsibilities of Spring container. Okay, right from instantiating the Spring Bean classes, initializing them, placing them into service based on the client's requirement, based on the client's requests, and destroying the beans. So these are all the responsibilities of the Spring container. So with regard to the lifecycle management, you know what? Here, Spring container also provides dependency injection service. I can say Spring container also provides dependency injection service to the Spring Beans. I can say yes. Dependency injection means injecting that dependencies which are needed for a particular bean. Okay, the container itself is responsible for injecting the beans which are needed for a particular bean. Yes, that is also the responsibility of the Spring container itself. This is also the responsibility of the Spring container itself. Yes, you know what is the benefit? You see, what if the container manages this Spring Bean life cycle? So, do you see any advantage here? What do people think? Is there any advantage for this? Do you see any advantage for this? Definitely, I can say yes. No, okay. So one more thing here. Just now, as I told you people, dependency means I'm not talking about the project dependencies. I'm not talking about the libraries here. Just now, as I told you people, dependency is an object needed for another object to accomplish a task or a goal. I'm not talking about Maven dependencies. Please don't confuse. Um, we are not talking about Maven dependencies. So we are talking about the Java objects. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the Java objects dependency means the Java objects. Dependency is an object which is needed for another object to accomplish a task or a goal. Yes. Dependency injection means injecting or supplying the dependencies needed for a particular object. Yes. So what if the container instantiates this beans and initializes it? So do you see any advantage? You see, you have to analyze these things. So what do you people think? Do you see any advantage for this? For the containers lifecycle management of the beans. That means container. You will find that in Spring, generally most of the times we don't instantiate the beans. That means we don't create the objects here. So who will do that? The container itself will take care of it. Spring container will be responsible for instantiating the beans and all here. Even most of the times initialization also, the container itself will take care of it. Yes. Code reduction. Okay. Yes. How you can say code reduction here? You see, you will find that in the development, in the application development, I can say that one of the most common code, the redundant code which you will be writing is creating objects, instantiating the classes, right? So don't you think you'll be doing it very frequently, instantiating the classes, creating objects in the applications or in the application development, instantiating that objects, instantiating the classes is the most common stuff, redundant stuff which you'll be doing. Not only that, writing the code to acquire the dependencies also, that is also very redundant. You see, now this is taken care by the framework. Yes. So framework itself will take care of those things here. Yes. You know, so that means as a developer, we don't have to worry about writing this code to instantiate the beans, initializing the beans, acquiring the dependencies needed for the bean. So we can just avoid it. The container is responsible for that. So this is one of the features of your Spring framework, I can say. So let's go back to the discussion here. We'll discuss more of this dependency injection later on. Just to end your curiosity, what is dependency injection? I'm just talking about it. That's it. So you will be able to develop the beans which are loosely coupled. Okay. So from now on, I'll be using the term beans. Beans means they're nothing but the Java objects which we use in our Spring framework, Spring based applications. the Java objects which we use in Spring-based applications and which are managed by the container. Okay, they are managed by the container. Just remember this. Okay, you see, this dependency injection helps us to develop the beans which are loosely coupled. When I say the beans are loosely coupled, so what does that means? Yes, loosely coupled means we'll discuss about it. Developing the loosely coupled beans means, you see, you'll find that you can say that two beans are loosely coupled if change in one bean does not affect the other bean, okay, or change in the dependency, it does not affect the dependent bean. So that is loosely coupled beans, I can say. But okay, it's too early for us. So in the examples, I'll show people. As of now, just try to understand that here in Spring Framework, yes. So we use this dependency injection concept, which helps us to develop the beans which are loosely coupled. Okay, so I'll show you. I'll demonstrate it with an example. Don't worry. Next, declarative programming through aspects and common conventions. So when I say declarative programming, so what does it means? What it means? So declarative programming means yes. So declarative programming means you see you'll find that here will be asking the framework to provide few functionalities through configurations. For example, actually this aspects, we call it as aspects here, declarative programming through aspects. And you'll find that here, generally this aspects, they're based on AOP, aspect oriented programming concept. AOP is one of the most important feature which you'll see in Spring Framework. So it helps us to avoid that boilerplate code, the fourth point which is discussed or which is mentioned over there. So you'll find that here it helps us to avoid boilerplate code. Yes. So boilerplate code means the most redundant code, I can say. The most redundant code. So it's called as boilerplate code. So the code which is redundant, which is spread across the application, that is boilerplate code. So we can just avoid writing such boilerplate code all over the place in the application. Even transaction management also. So transaction management. So logging, exception handling. So this code will be spread across the application. So we can just isolate this code which is spread across the application to avoid redundancy and we can ask the framework to apply this code wherever you need it declaratively. That means through configurations using annotations or XML. Using annotations or XML, declaratively, we can ask the framework to use this code. Okay, yes, to apply the code to a particular method. Let's say I need transaction management. I don't want to deal with transaction management explicitly. Okay, I don't want to deal with transaction management code explicitly. I mean, I want the framework to manage the transactions for me. So in a particular method, I need transactions, but I don't want to write the transaction management code. I want to leave it to the framework. Yes, it is possible. Definitely it is possible. Okay, you can do that. Yes. That is done through annotations. You can ask the framework to, you know, use transactions for a particular method. Yes, good. So you'll come to know more about it when we use it. Okay, yes. So we can avoid redundancy this way. Next, so these are the four strategies: POJO-based development, dependency injection, declarative programming, the main features of Spring Framework. So which will be implementing it, applying it. Just a second. So when we implement it, we'll discuss more of this dependency injection. So you'll find that here, when we talk about Spring Framework, now over the years, it has evolved. The journey of Spring Framework is very long. It's almost 1 decade or so. It was introduced 10 years ago, still going strong. Because, time to time, Spring Framework has, you know, captured the requirements of the developers, and accordingly, Spring Framework has provided the solutions, I can say. Yes. Accordingly, Spring Framework has accordingly provided the solutions for it. Okay. Yes. So this is the most predominant framework which you'll find in the Java community. Nowadays, I guess it's impossible to think about enterprise application development without Spring. Though it is possible, you can do that, but almost everyone uses Spring for enterprise application development. Yes. So this is not from Java. Officially, this is not from Java. So, an open source community called as Spring Source is provided it. Um, you will find that there are various modules in Spring. And apart from that, in recent years, you'll find that an extension to Spring framework is introduced called as Spring Boot, you know, which made it even more popular. Yes, Spring Boot made it even more popular. So you will find that with Spring Boot, the way we develop the applications has been changed. Okay, yes, it has changed. So our aim is to learn Spring framework, Spring Boot, also microservices using Spring Boot. I'll show you how to develop microservices also using Spring Boot. This is the sequence which will follow. Okay, first of all, if you want to learn Spring Boot, it is important to understand Spring Framework. As I told you people, it is built on top of Spring Framework. It is an extension to Spring. Next, using Spring Boot, we'll learn how to develop microservices. So microservices is an architecture which is widely used nowadays in the enterprise application development. So we'll learn how to work with this microservices architecture. So Spring Boot supports the development of microservices. It doesn't mean that we can only develop microservices using Spring Boot. So that means you'll find that here, without, you can also develop other types of applications using Spring Boot. Okay. Yes. In the process, you'll also learn Spring Boot, and you need Spring Cloud also. Spring Cloud. So Spring Cloud, basically, it helps you people to develop the applications which are cloud native, or which are cloud ready, which are cloud native. So when I say cloud ready or cloud native, what does that mean? That means the applications which can be deployed to cloud platforms. You can say that the applications which can be deployed to cloud platforms. Okay, so such applications we say they're cloud ready or cloud native. Okay, yes, they're cloud native or cloud ready. Yes. Just a second, please. Okay, so these are some of the latest technologies which we'll be learning here. Yes, fine. So first of all, we'll start with the Spring Cloud means, yeah, as I told you people. So when I say cloud native, yeah, the applications which can be deployed to cloud platforms. So earlier when we talk about enterprise application development, so the enterprise applications, where they were deployed? Any idea? Where are this enterprise applications deployed?
Server.
Yeah, enterprise applications were deployed on application servers. Enterprise applications were deployed on application servers. Like you have JBoss application server, IBM WebSphere, you got Oracle's WebLogic. So these are very popular application servers, so which were used for deployment of enterprise applications. And earlier, I mean, earlier since still recently, even in some projects, still they're following the same approach. This enterprise application is bundled as a single deployable unit or deployable file. all the modules, yes, they are bundled together into a single unit and it is deployed onto the server. That is this, that is how the enterprise applications used to be deployed on the server. But now, you know what? It has changed. Okay, it has changed. You'll find that here, the previous strategy, it was called as monolithic strategy. Nowadays, most of the times people are not using this monolithic strategy, deploying the whole application onto a single application server and running it on that application server. Instead, people are following this microservices architecture, and you will find that they're using cloud platforms to deploy the applications. Yeah, the Amazon Web Services is one of the cloud platforms which you'll find. But AWS is not only the cloud platform which is available. There are other cloud platforms also. So have you people heard about any other cloud platforms apart from AWS? Now, AWS is slowly, uh, people are just reassessing, and you'll find that people are also looking for alternates. So AWS is a little complicated. So the more easier platforms have been introduced, less complex platforms like cloud platforms are available. Azure, yes. And what else? Any other platforms you have heard about? Google's cloud platform, yeah, GCP, Google's cloud platform. And what else? You have Heroku, Google Cloud. Heroku is also there. Heroku is also used a lot. Heroku, Heroku. Okay. So um, you'll come to know when I talk about microservices, uh, you'll understand this cloud platforms. So why we need this cloud platforms? Yeah. So first of all, actually, 3-4 years back, at least 2 years, 3 years back, when we talk about Spring framework, there was no hint of Spring Boot and all. Uh, I used to only talk about Spring framework. As the days have passed, I have to also accommodate new topics, new stuff into this training. So as a result of it, I have to make sure that if there are any old stuff, I have to remove it, like servlets and JSPs. You see, I'm just I've confined myself to a couple of classes to teach servlets and JSPs because they're not used much nowadays. Rather, it's better for me to concentrate more on this stuff. Yeah. So first, we'll start with Spring framework. In Spring framework, we'll go through these modules: Spring Core, Spring AOP, Spring MVC, Spring ORM, and security. Security also I may teach it in Spring Boot itself. So you'll find that you have something called a Spring JDBC, but I've removed it now. Spring JDBC is a wrapper around JDBC API. Okay, it's a wrapper around JDBC API. you'll find that in place of this, okay, I have accommodated new things like boot and all, because if I have to talk more about boot, then I have to remove the other stuff. So I guess you'll be able to easily understand those things, but Spring JDBC is not much important for us, don't worry. So first I'll teach you people these modules from Spring Framework. So where you'll understand the basics of Spring Framework, dependency injection, Spring containers, configuring beans, developing Spring beans, wiring them, and in Spring AOP, you'll understand how to avoid this boilerplate code, redundant code, and all such things. And then we'll go with we'll develop Spring MVC based applications. So I mean, web applications. Spring MVC module is used to develop web applications. We'll develop web applications using Spring MVC. And then we'll go with Spring ORM module to integrate Spring with ORM frameworks like Hibernate. And then securing Spring applications using security. And then we'll start with Spring Boot. So in Spring Boot, I'll show you how to develop applications using Spring Boot. We'll have various starters for that. We'll talk about those starters. Then I'll show you web application development using Spring Boot. And, you know, we'll also go through enterprise messaging here itself. And we'll talk about security. And then I'll move on to microservices. And I'll introduce you people to microservices. And then I'll be using Spring Boot plus Spring Cloud to develop microservices. Okay, so where you'll be using this, just a second. Yeah, in Spring Boot itself, I'll show you uh, REST controllers, developing REST services, I can say, using REST controllers. Because you know what, in microservices, you'll be using RESTful services itself. Okay, they're completely based on REST architecture. I mean, REST services are used in microservices. So this is how you'll follow the pattern. Okay, so I can't change this pattern or alternate this pattern. So this is the order in which I'll be teaching you people the stuff. Okay, so lastly, microservices. Here in microservices, you'll use Spring Boot, Spring Cloud. You will learn Spring Cloud projects, various Spring Cloud projects like Eureka. So in Eureka, you'll have Eureka client, Eureka server, and Eureka client, which is all cloud based actually. They're all cloud based concepts itself, microservices. So Eureka client, you learn paying clients, you learn. So Eureka is actually related to service, dynamic service registries, and discovery. Paying clients to access that services. Next, we'll be talking about configuration management. You will come across Spring Cloud configuration service, the configuration clients will be there. We'll be talking about gateway services. Using Zipkin, we'll do that. We got something called a Zipkin. For load balancing, we'll be using Zip, a lot of stuff has been added. So that's the reason why. So I'm avoiding few unnecessary things, old concepts. Yeah. So in securing services, when you talk about security here, I'll be using OAuth 2 for this purpose. Yeah. So it's a very extensive line. So you know what? The thing is, as I told you people, these are very, very hot, believe me. The only thing is, I need time and flexibility from you people. Make sure that you attend the classes. Coming weekend also, I'll be conducting classes to the maximum extent. Make yourself available. Okay? Yes. Because such a vast concept, I have to cover it in short period. So I need your support as well, as much as possible. Yes. Okay. Now, first of all, in order to work with Spring Framework, what you need. You know what? One more thing. If you miss any of these things in the middle, then that will be a problem. And I seriously recommend you people to start working with the Spring Framework right from the first day itself. Okay? Right from the first day itself, you start working with this framework. Okay? So here the Spring Boot will be talking about Spring data. We'll come across JPA stuff and all. Sorry, Spring data as well. Yeah. So the thing is, right from the first day, you try to start working with the Spring framework. Okay, don't neglect it. I can say that okay, this is not like I'm trying to advertise myself. So you got a great opportunity to learn these things. Try to use this opportunity. If you miss this part, then I can say that it's your bad luck, purely bad luck. You know, the bad luck which you have caused it, which will cost you a lot. So make sure that you learn these things. Okay. So everywhere you people will be asking you people this stuff. Yes. Okay. So yeah. So be careful. So after that, it's your wish. And one more thing. So people who are not bothered about these things, even I'm not bothered about those people. I'll never, like people who neglect technology. Yes. Later on, if you come to me and say that I missed these classes, I didn't learn this, please help me. I won't do that. Yes, definitely. Okay, after listening to the classes, if you ask me, that is different. But really, that is my mentality. If you don't respect the technology, and I don't respect you people. You need not respect me. Not a problem. Yes. Because it gives you an opportunity, plenty of opportunities. That is your life. Try to understand that. Yes. I'm very stubborn in that regard. Whoever doesn't like the technology, I don't like them. Yes. So now,
So my
yes, yes, Vishal.
yeah, this enterprise messaging is this JMS, right?
So JMS is also the thing is we don't use JMS API directly. So
Okay.
instead of that, we'll go with the Spring Boot messaging support where you have RabbitMQ and all. We got AMQP,
So there
Spring Boot
that will
and
be Apache Kafka or something. That server
RabbitMQ.
based.
RabbitMQ.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it is JMS again, I have to go with application service. That is a old strategy. No one is bothered about
Okay.
it now. Yes.
So the
Anyway,
Apache Kafka is
the
also
concept
part of this messaging. Okay.
Apache Kafka, there are many such tools which are available for message servers are
Okay.
there. Okay, yeah, there are a lot of message servers. Like you have RabbitMQ, you have Apache Kafka, and there are many other things also for messaging. The tools just used. The concept would be same. The tools which you use
Okay.
slightly vary, but the concepts are going to be the same. So these are called as message brokers, which facilitates messaging. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. So now, first of all, what is needed to work with Spring Framework? Okay. So you need Spring IDE. Sorry, yeah, Spring IDE called as Spring Tool Suite. In short, it is called as STS. Here, Spring STS is an IDE actually. Yes. Here, you can download this STS from the official site itself. Spring Tool Suite. So this is the official site from where you can just upload, obtain this STS, Spring Tool Suite. So for different operating systems and platforms, you have this appropriate version of STS which you can download. Okay, so STS, you'll find that it is actually built on top of Eclipse IDE itself. Okay, it is built on top of Eclipse. In fact, STS is Eclipse itself, but you will find that here you got some additional tools, Spring tools installed on this STS. Yes. You know, STS, you'll find that internally provides you templates which are Maven based. They'll be using Maven tool to create this Spring projects. Okay, in order to create this Spring projects, you find that here Maven will be used. Maven, or we have another option called as Gradle. There are two build tools. When we talk about build tools, you have a couple of build tools. One is Maven, which can be used for creating this applications, Spring-based application, not only Spring, but any applications. Already we did use Maven for Hibernate framework also. Yes, so Maven is used for Spring for almost any type of application development in Java. And we have another tool called as Gradle. So if time permits, I'll also at least brief you people on this Gradle. Otherwise, I want you to just have a look at it. Okay, so go through this once. Gradle, Maven and Gradle. So let me show you people this build tool. Sorry, not build tool, the ID, STS. So you'll get a zip file. You need to just extract it, and you can just start working with this ID. That's it. starting. Okay, so set this workspace. No, it's separate. It's better to have this download this STS separately itself. Again, if you install plugins and all, sometimes if they crash, that will be an issue. So you can download this STS directly from the official site. I gave you the link now. You'll find it over there. From the Eclipse marketplace, you can just get the plugins of this STS. Again, you have to install them on Eclipse. Even if they fail, that will be an issue. Why do you take that headache? So we have several tools here in STS which helps you, which facilitates the development of Spring-based applications. Yeah. So this is how your STS looks like. But of course, there are a lot of differences which you'll find here. Okay. Yes. Now let's do one thing. So let me show you people how to create a Spring project here using this tools or templates which are provided by this STS. So when we talk about development of Spring applications, okay, so you'll find that we can broadly classify them into two types: using plain Spring framework, okay, using plain Spring framework, or using Spring Boot. So first of all, I'll show you people using only plain Spring framework so that you can endorse Spring Boot. Then only you can understand what is the advantage of using Spring Boot. Okay, yes. So first of all, you'll find that without using Spring Boot, so the configuration management and all, you'll find that it is yeah. So we'll just only work with the Spring framework. So it will be regular configurations based. So later on you'll understand. So we can just avoid most of the redundant configuration stuff and all. Yeah. So first, let's try to create a Spring project here. So which will be based on only Spring core module. So we'll just use Spring core module here. Okay, just a Spring core module. So in this core module, I'll teach you people how to develop Spring Beans, how to configure Spring Beans, how to work with a Spring container, loading the Spring container, wiring the beans, okay, dependency injection, all such things. Okay, yeah. So first, we'll create a new, we'll use this wizard called as new Spring Legacy Project option. So people now they're calling it as Legacy Project option, only Spring Framework. Okay, because Spring people now they are, you know, encouraging us to use Spring Boot a lot. Okay, so but let's work with this legacy project once. So I'll use this option Spring Legacy Project. Now you have to provide the project name. So let's provide a project name for this. So it's Spring Core Proj. Next thing, uh, here in my machine there is a problem with this templates. Okay, so I'll maximize this template. So you'll find that you have templates for creating different types of projects. You see this template section. So it won't show this. It won't show this template names properly in my machine. Maybe because of screen resolution or whatever it is. I tried changing the screen resolution also, but still it's not working. For you people, you won't have this problem. So I'll tell you the name of this template which you need to use. Okay. So under the templates here, you should see Simple Spring Utility Project. Make a note of it. You'll find something called a Simple Spring Utility Project. Okay. So Simple Spring Utility Project. Okay. That will be the name of the template you have to choose and click on next. So it will ask you whether to download certain libraries which are needed for this project. This is the Simple Spring Utility Project. You can click on yes. Now, after that, you have to specify the project name you wish. Sorry, package details, packaging structure. It's Maven based now. Beforehand itself, it will ask you to specify the package structure. Something like this. Let's say com.mtc.app. I'll click on finish. Next, it will take some time. Just give some time to that tool to build this project. So because it has to acquire all the libraries and dependencies, so it will take some time. Yeah. See, this is our project here. So which is Maven based. If you can check this, you'll find that it is based on Maven. Now, first of all, I want you people to check this pom.xml file. So because now we are using a new framework. So this framework is not part of your standard Java libraries. So it's provided by open source community, right? So you need that are libraries. So the dependencies will be added here. You see the template itself helps us to create this project and it also adds the dependencies here. The dependencies which are needed for us. These are a couple of dependencies related to Spring Framework, which helps us to work with core module. Okay. Yes. So I'll change this version also of Spring Framework. We'll make it 4.2.11 Spring Framework version. So you'll find it. So generally, just a second. It's, let me, minor versions, I guess, I have to change it. Spring 4.3.11. Just a minute. Okay. So Spring Framework 4. So what are these properties? For your information, in Maven, this is related to Maven, not related to Spring. Don't get confused. So here this Maven, what it does is basically, it uses this properties, nothing but they are variables here. When I say properties, they are just simply variables, I can say. So you see, you can just think of them as variables with some values which you can make use of. Okay. So what is the variable name or property name here? Spring.framework.version. That is a property. What is the value? 4.3.11 release. That is the value of that property. That is the value of that property here. Okay. Yes. 4.3.11 dot release. That is a property value. So spring.framework.version. That is a property. And the value is 4.3.11 version. Yes. Next, you'll find that we'll be using that property a variable here. You see, now we are adding the dependency. So we want this libraries. So which version of Spring Framework libraries you want? See, you have specified that version and you are reading that property value here. $of spring.framework.version. $of spring.framework.version. So that is what you'll be doing. Yes. So similarly, here we are using the property in other dependencies also. So the version property, the Spring Framework Spring.framework version. So instead of hard coding the version in each and every dependency, we can just define the property at one place here. You see under the properties, and you can use it throughout this form.xml file. So what is the advantage? You'll find that, you see, now if we change that version value, the properties over there on the top. That's enough. So it will be changed in all other places. Okay. So along with this Spring framework, you see, we got some additional dependencies as well, like JUnit. We got log4j for testing purpose. You have the Spring test module. So we have all those things. So this is your form.xml file with the dependencies. Next, okay, you'll find a XML file under the Metine folder Spring. Under the Metine folder, you have a Spring folder. Under that Spring folder, you'll find this. So this is called a Spring Bean configuration file. But nowadays, almost it is extinct. People are not using this configuration files anymore. But what happens is, why I'm still showing you people such legacy projects, because you never know. So if you're put into any project, uh, doesn't mean that every project will be using new versions of the technologies. Okay, so there is no such guarantee. People might be still using older versions. Okay, yes. So it's better for you people to have a knowledge of how this previous code looks like. Yes. So now you see this Spring Bean configuration file here. The root element is beans, and we got this element called as context component scan, and it refers to a package. Context component scan. And basically, it refers to a package. What is it? com.mcc.app. So actually, it is an instruction to the container to look for the Spring Beans in that package. The container, when it loads, so it has to look for that Spring Beans in that package. That is what it indicates. Okay, yeah. So next, how a Spring Bean looks like. Yes, soon we'll see that also. As I told you people, as of now, it's better to have this knowledge of XML based configurations to understand the XML based configurations. How a Spring Bean looks like, you see, just look at this class. So this is your Spring Bean. So what you're looking at is actually a Spring Bean, I can say. Yes. It looks like a normal Java class, right? So what is special about it? Is it because it is implementing an interface? I can say no. This annotation here on top of it. @component annotation. So it is from Spring Framework. So which indicates that this class is a Spring Bean class. It indicates that this class is actually a Spring Bean class here. Yes. So that is what it indicates here. Okay. Next, this class is implementing an interface. Is it any predefined interface? I can say no. You can check this once. It's just a user-defined interface. It's just a user-defined interface, not specific to any framework. It's not specific to framework. Yes. Here, so this class is a Spring Bean class. So what if it is a Spring Bean? What is the specialty of it? Yes. What did I say? What if it is a Spring Bean?
Its life cycle will be managed by the container.
Yeah. So the container will be responsible for managing the life cycle of this Spring Bean. The container will be responsible for managing the life cycle of the Spring Bean here. Yes. So you'll find that Maven has added all the dependencies which are needed. Maven has added all the dependencies which are needed here. You see, Spring testing, Spring core, Spring context, AOP beans, Spring expressions. So this way, so Maven will add all the dependencies which are needed. Yes. Okay. Next, let's do one thing here. So I'm going to show you people how to load the container and make use of this Spring Bean. Okay. So as I told you people, in Spring Framework, we are not responsible for instantiating the Spring Beans, right? The container has to do that. So let's quickly load the container and ask ask the container to provide this example service bean reference so that we can make use of that example service bean. Okay. Yes. So I'm defining another class here called as test. So first of all, I load this container application context, new class path, application context slash meta slash string slash app context.xml. So next thing, so what we are doing in this statement, actually I can say that we are loading the Spring container. We are loading the Spring container here. Yes. So that is what we are doing. I can say with the statement. And this application context object here, it represents that container, I can say. It represents that Spring container. Now, let's ask the Spring framework to provide that example service bean reference. Okay, we'll ask the framework to provide that example service bean reference. So how will you ask the framework to provide that example service bean reference? We should use a method called as getBean, and you have to provide that bean name. What is it? Example service. Okay. Yes. So straight away you'll get that example service bean reference. Now in that example service bean, we got a method. What is it? Get message. So I would like to use this method, which returns a simple string. Okay, I'll print it here. Example service dot get message. That's it. Now you might be wondering. So you see, just to instantiate that example service bean, we are loading the container. Then we are asking the container to provide that bean reference. Can't we directly create that object? Yeah, you can do that, but the thing is, you won't be able to avail that features of Spring container. So slowly you'll understand. Okay, so this is the first class now. So here today we just looking at how to create the Spring project and how to load this container and how your Spring beans look like. How a Spring bean looks like. That is what you're looking at here. Okay. Yes. So now let's run this code. You see, we got the output. So have you noticed it? To this class path XML application context, you're passing that to that constructor. We are passing that Spring Bean configuration file name. So your Spring container will load that configurations from that configuration file itself. It will load the configurations from the configuration file itself, I can say. Yes. So I need to demonstrate this dependency injection concept and all such things. And we have to go through a lot of things. Okay, this is just a beginning. We just saw how to create a Spring project here. I'm sorry. We just saw how to create a Spring project today. That's it. So in the next class, I'll demonstrate dependency injection. I will see how to wire the beans. There are a lot of things which you'll learn. Okay. Yes, it's just a beginning. Fine. So far what we did, Is it clear for you people? Any questions in this regard? Let me know. Yeah. Anyone got any questions?
Yeah, so while creating the Spring project in this HTS, I am getting this issue .junit.list cannot be resolved.
JUnit?
It's not in build path. Yeah, project path was not built with its build path is incomplete. Is it in dependency on org.junit?
Or .JUnit? No, you won't find any issues here. I mean, after creating the project, you're saying?
Yeah, it's just normally create new project the same way you have created.
Okay. So I guess you have the problem with the repository. Yeah, if you have any issues with the repository, then you'll get such issues, such errors. Okay, I'll look into it. So actually what you have to
Okay,
do is you have to clean your local repository for that purpose. If you know how to
okay.
just clean the local repository, just check once, search for this, clean
Mm-hmm.
local repository, Maven local repository, clean it, and then you will find
Okay,
it. You'll be able to fix that issue. Okay, clean the local
okay,
repository once, and then once stop this IDE, clean the local repository and start the IDE again, and you open your application. It will try to fetch that library. Still you have issues, let me know. Yeah.
thank you. Okay.
Okay. Okay then. Let's meet tomorrow at same time for this spring class and we'll continue our discussion. Okay. Thank you all. Bye bye.